On the topic of next up and coming up, we had a pod listener write in saying they haven't seen me play in any events recently. And I wanted to write you back, Lorna, you know who you are, and be like, what?
Well.
I took 14 days of no events. And it's like, where are you? Why aren't you playing? So...
Well, it's because everyone else in the pickleball universe has been playing back-to-back pickleball events.
Oh my gosh.
Non-stop pickleball.
You tuned in now to this pickleball life. I'm Ketones and JILLYB is my wife. She's the pro and I've got the filler. She's sweet to me, but on the court she's a killer. Unadulterated and efficiently bringing you the best and worst things in PB. Tell your friends and stay for another. And no one loves us more than your mother. One thing's for sure, one hit and you're addicted. Grab a pile, grab a court, don't resist it. So click subscribe, let's go, let's get cracking. Themesong done, let's go, let's get laughing. This pickleball life.
Kristen, have we ever done a pod not together?
First time for everything. I mean, I was thinking about that actually 5 minutes before we started recording. I think in the 10 years roughly we've been together, I don't know if we've been apart for more than a month, maybe 6 weeks in total. And that's including Cincinnati when you moved for 2 weeks while you were working at UTR to watch tennis.
We have been apart a lot in the past month.
You think?
So I think it's time to tell our listeners the news. We're breaking up.
Breaking up the pod.
No, we're just kidding. Sorry, we're stuck together for life. Unfortunately for Kristen. But no, Kristen has been in Aspen. I miss you dearly, but I'm so excited to see you tomorrow in Chicago.
Yes, Chicago, here we come. Believe it or not, there's a direct flight from Aspen to Chicago. What are the odds?
Go.
You can't go anywhere from Aspen.
Also, Kristen, did you know this is pod 50? I feel like that's a milestone. I know it's like two off of 52 weeks, but
totally is a milestone.
Yes.
Yeah, what is 50? I mean, that's like middle age, Over the hill.
I was so hesitant to start podcasting. Like, I'm a private person. I don't know. Like and I've really loved it in the community that we've built and our joy riders and spreading the joy of pickleball and bringing light to critical issues. It's just been a wild ride, and I'm excited kind of for more of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so impressed with you that you have taken this bull by the horns and really embraced the podcast life. Now it's really 53 if you include the pickleball breakdown.
I was going to say, and for those of you listening at home, Joyriders, we started a new podcast. It's called The Pickleball Breakdown with JILLYB and Scott Crandall, coach of the Bay Area Breakers, MLP Coach of the Year. My coach, Jesse Irvin's coach, who just actually got double gold. Go Jesse at the most recent PPA. So if you want kind of no fuss, 30 minutes game improvement advice, this is the podcast for you. Go check it out.
Dear JILLYB, if Dear JILLYB is your favorite part of the podcast, the Pickleball Breakdown is Dear JILLYB plus Dear Scotty C.
And on the topic of more coaching and advice, we had one group of 4 people pull out of Tres Palapas. So if you want to come and enjoy sunshine tacos, white sand beaches, Kristen playing the ukulele, me giving semi-private instruction, come join us October 28th through the 30th this year, 1 hour north of Los Cabos in the absolute pickleball paradise that is Tres Palapas. So that's 4 more spots. You can head to my website, jillybpickleball.com/camps to apply. Super excited about this.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I can't believe it's already been a year since we were there last year. It felt like such a gift.
We are also blogging, so we're trying our best to capture the need to know pieces of the Pickleball Breakdown podcast and TPL. If you go to jillybpickleball.com and subscribe, it'll be the very first thing you see. Just subscribe to that newsletter, and then you can just get the breakdown, pun intended, of everything that we're up to.
If it feels like you're not getting spammed by us enough, it's because we do not use AI. And we probably should. My life would probably be way easier, less time consuming, but no, I do everything manually.
Okay, real talk for a second. There are so many pickleball newsletters, and I can't handle them because you can tell when AI is writing them. It drives me
Yeah.
insane.
AI, the wave of the future. The real skill in the future is converting AI into sounding like a human. That's really the skill. Oh, you're a writer. Oh, you take AI and convert that into human. Got
Wait,
it.
what did you say last week where you're like, I wonder if we're gonna start seeing the hashtag trend?
Yeah, like you used to see the hashtag all the time, hashtag no filter, and now
Mhm.
no one, I guess, uses filters, so no one needs to. But I think we're gonna start seeing hashtag no AI, not made
Right.
with
Like,
AI. Like hashtag
yes.
AI not involved. Like what would be the phrasing? I don't know.
Hashtag not AI. I love that.
Hashtag I'm a human.
So this podcast and our newsletters will continue to be 100% grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised, not AI.
Totally. All right. So I will say one of the things we are about to head to after Chicago is DINKsanity, aka Linsanity, as in Jeremy Lin, our owner for one of our owners for the Bay Area Breakers. We are hosting an exhibition versus the SoCal Hard Eights, the leaders in the clubhouse currently in the Challenger standings, and we still have a few tickets left. So don't delay. Head to Breakers MLP and check out their link in bio to get the last few tickets and join us in NorCal. Alameda, here we come at the hub.
I'm so impressed that that has almost sold out and so quickly. And so that's on September 3rd, Alameda at the Hub. Michael Chang is going to be there along with Jeremy Lin. It's going to be an exhibition. And what else are we doing? Are we like doing a camp or like talk to me about this? Is it
At
just come and
DINKsanity,
watch the exhibition? Yeah.
it's 4 to 8 p.m. We're gonna start with the celebrities and then move into the exhibition match. There will be some other activities sprinkled in, some meet and greets, and some fun stuff. But yeah, mostly it's just come and watch an
Nice.
awesome MLP match. Two of the best teams.
Nice.
We're stoked. The next day we're gonna be going to a place called Chef Choose that is legendary in the Bay Area, along with the whole crew. So that should be fun too.
On the topic of next up and coming up, we had a pod listener write in saying they haven't seen me play in any events recently. And I wanted to write you back, Lorna, you know who you are, and be like, what? I
Well,
took 14 days of no events. And it's like, where are you? Why aren't you playing? So,
well, it's
so we
because
have,
everyone
we
else in
have
the
a,
pickleball universe has been playing back to back to back to back to back to back to back pickleball events. It's
oh my gosh.
nonstop pickleball.
I didn't have these last two PPAs on my calendar, but don't worry, 12 of the next 13 weeks are a pickleball event, you guys. So, Kristen, tell us where we're
I
going next.
I thought it would be fun to read the rest of our 2024 schedule in the style of an auctioneer. So, next up, we've got APP Chicago. We're going to head straight from Chicago to the Bay Area to the DINKsanity exhibition. And then we've got the Pittsburgh Gamma Classic, headed straight to MLP Virginia. Then we're off to the APP Ohio Women's event. Happy birthday, Jill! And APP Dallas, MLP Las Vegas. Then we're off to APP SoCal, and it's just the Mexico. Trace Palapas straight from Mexico. We're going to the Dallas MLP Playoffs round 1. Then we're APP Boca Raton. Then USAP Nationals. That's in Phoenix. And then, of course, we're hoping to get to the MLP Playoffs round 2. Then we're headed to China. And then back to Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the APP, and it's a happy birthday to me. That's a wrap up for 2024. So, in case you were wondering
Oh
where
my
we'll be,
gosh.
now you know.
That was amazing. We need more auctioneering. And yes, we are actually going to China. I think we mentioned that on our last podcast. Stoked to have snagged one of the few invites to China. Really looking forward to that. And then, like you said, we come back and it's happy birthday to you, Kristen. Every year for your birthday, what do I give you? I give you an opportunity to watch me play professional pickleball. You are welcome.
The gift that keeps on giving. Yeah, can you remember the last 4 years of PPA or of pickleball tournaments on my birthday?
Definitely.
That's the real question.
I played in the finals of nationals and singles against Anna Lee, 3 years ago, and that was on your birthday in our backyard in Indian
Mm-hmm.
Wells.
And I think the prior year was surprise
Yes.
for playing
Yep.
pickleball. Then
I got a.
yeah, after that I can't remember. I think there was a Southern California event another year, but just nothing but pickle. I'll take it. So I had a real quick catching up to do. Obviously, we're separate because I'm in Aspen. which has been beautiful and glorious weather. I almost needed a sweatshirt this morning. It's not 120 here. So yesterday, my dad and I went to hit a few pickleballs in the neighborhood court, and we had our neighbors come, and they were not feeling well, so they left. And my dad was like, "All right, you want to play singles?" And I was like, "Well, I was thinking about playing singles in that Gamma Classic, so yeah, let's try a few points." And we're playing singles, and he's hanging in there. And I think I won the first game like 11. I don't know. I think it was 11-0. No, I'm just kidding. I think it was like 11-0 or like 10-0 for the majority of it. And then he got a few points. And then we were playing the second game, and he was actually making a bit of a comeback. And he goes to run for a ball on his left baseline and like catches a weird lip on the court, does a full send, full Superman, splats down on the court. And here's my 75-year-old dad just like crushing it out here playing singles. And somehow managed to distribute his weight so perfectly that he just like landed like a pancake. And he just has like a little skin on his knee and a little bum on his lip, but he's totally fine. So I said we could leave, but we don't want to leave on that note. So let's do some dinking games, and then we'll get out of here. But I was thinking you definitely need to do an episode of the Pickleball Breakdown on singles. And that might be too broad a topic, but I
No,
do
I love
think in
that.
this day and age, like it's a niche in and of itself, and there are singles strategies and how they differ from doubles. And I think that'd be really, really interesting.
Oh no,
So put it in the coffer.
I absolutely love that. So last time we were in
I just thought of
Aspen,
another fun idea. We could write out all the future topics of the Pickleball Breakdown in the beginning of the episode. You could pull it out of a hat. That could be interesting.
Or have our listeners vote on what they want next.
All great possibilities.
And the last time we were in Aspen, so last month, your father bit it biking with us on an electric bike and was bleeding like head to toe. So maybe we should stop going to Aspen. Something to think about.
I think I'm a bad influence, clearly.
I think you are. All right, Kristen, paddle talk. There has been so much drama, and we've been sitting actually on a lot of this drama. We had leaked to us really early the Selkirk love letters to the UPAA probably 3 weeks ago. And again, we were kind of sitting on this. And I think it's finally time to address it. Kristen, do you agree?
I agree. The silence is broken. The Selkirk letter of all letters, the letter heard around the pickleball world.
Totally. And why don't you preface kind of what has been going on to drive Selkirk to basically declare war?
So we're going to be reading some of the excerpts from this this very salacious letter. But I just wanted to remind people that right now we've talked a lot about Joola this year. And now they have this paddle called the Mod, which everyone is saying is basically a Gen 3. So let's call it a Gen 3 minus 3%. Before that was the Gen 3. Before that was the Alpha. And before the Alpha, what was the paddle everyone thought was so hot?
The 002. The Selkirk.
It was the 002 Selkirk. Mm-hmm. And for that matter, we heard that when they made the adjustment in the fall of 2023 from 50 as a parameter down to 42, it was because that would allow the Selkirk paddles to pass testing in Daytona.
And what's interesting about that is in the Selkirk letters to the UPA, they actually addressed that incidence where the deflection parameters were lowered, which we had heard, like you just said, was to benefit Selkirk, and it did benefit Selkirk. They said in the letters, we were shocked you guys did that. We never asked you to do that.
Yeah. I love that you wrote in the notes, here's a few of my favorite excerpts. And then it's like 5 pages of excerpts because this whole letter is so good. But do you want to hit us off?
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to read you guys, so you don't have to read the actual letters, kind of our favorite choice pieces. So one of the letters was written by Tom Barnes, co-owner of Selkirk and director of R&D. And he writes, at this time, we believe the UPAA in its current form and direction is potentially the most dangerous organization to the future of pickleball. Wow, those were some strong words. He continues that Jason Aspis must remove all conflicts of interest if they exist, end quote. So Jason, as you may know, he has a financial interest in the kitchen pickleball, and that receives payments from paddle manufacturers, including Joola. We had Jason on our podcast a little bit ago. And then Tom from Selkirk goes on to say, based on your August 5th email, that's to Jason, and further investigation, it is my firm belief that you have colluded with Joola to reintroduce banned Gen 3s in the form of 3Ss into the market. Wow, end quote.
Yeah, and from what I heard, the mod is very close to the Gen 3. The S3 is like maybe a 20% reduction, so call it 10 to 20, depending on the moment, as we know these paddles change.
He goes on to say, quote, it has quickly become apparent to us that you have no understanding of what a standard is or how a governing body should operate, end quote. He continues to accuse the UPA and the PPL of gaslighting, quote, my brothers and I, coupled with an absurdly inadequate defense and dismissiveness of the entire situation, end quote. He also says, quote, you refer to the UPAA as a governing body, yet it does not fulfill the responsibilities that a true governing body should. A legitimate governing body sets clear, consistent standards, communicates transparency with all stakeholders, and enforces rules impartially to maintain the integrity of the sport. However, UPAA has failed to provide any of these essential functions, end quote. He then goes on to address the PPL, who he thinks is severely incompetent. He says PPL clearly started out as a fake it till you make it money grab. I am concerned that the UPA is following the same route. The focus seems to be on generating revenue and maintaining appearances rather than on upholding the principles of fairness, integrity, and excellence that should guide any organization in this sport, end quote. This all highlights PPL's complete incompetence, end quote. Wow.
Yeah, it does not pull any punches.
Goes on to say, quote, we are all fed up with the UPA, UPAA, and PPL's reckless ready, fire, aim approach decision-making. It's impacting our lives, harming the pros, and negatively affecting the entire pickleball community, end quote. And then he goes on to touch on reducing the price of certification to enable fair competition and pro-consumer behavior. So Kristen, walk us through this interim certification and future certification. I know a couple months ago it was leaked that the PPA would be charging $100,000 for certification. So if you want your paddle played on the Pro Tour, you'd be charged this amount. Jason Aspis went into the kitchen and said, the kitchen forum, and said, that's not true. That's not true. But it kind of is, right?
Well, I think the not true part is that it's not going to be $100,000. And it's still going to be way, way more than what they're used to being charged from the USAP. Somewhere, I think, in the ballpark of 50 to 75,000 are what I've been hearing rumblings of. Now, of course, for 2024, they'll prorate that, so you'll only be paying for one quarter, but it's still going to be way pricier than the current like $10,000 max most of these companies are paying for certification. So we'll see if that unveils. They're meeting on, I think, September 13th with this committee that includes Joola, Selkirk, as well as some smaller companies like Ace Paddles, 60, and Volair. And they'll make some decisions on the timing and the pricing, but it definitely is not going to be cheap.
Wow.
So I guess they just feel like that's the price the pickleball community has to pay for the future of the sport being a little easier to control the degradation, and the velocity testing must just be way more expensive. But wow, that's going to be a definite hurdle.
I think having a price tag like that is I have to agree with Selkirk. So Selkirk and Tom, they say, quote, "This will have two effects. It's going to push out new and smaller competition, and two, it will increase the price of paddles, especially from smaller competitors. Although Selkirk could absorb these costs without increasing price, and it would benefit us to push out the competition, this does not align with our values. We believe competition makes us better and is good for the consumer. A nonprofit will be able to execute certification at a significantly lower cost and without the concern of certification being leveraged to create a cash cow," end quote. So I think Selkirk is being heralded very positively for these letters and saying, like, good for you, you know, for sticking it to the man. At the same time, I want to call out that I think Selkirk has been the benefactor of a lot of PPA's discretion, leniency, and favoritism. And to me, the letters read with an undertone of, hey, we're not the favorite anymore. Kristen, did you also think that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we touched on that like before Yola, it was Selkirk. I mean, it's DJ Selkirk. It's Selkirk all over the PPA. So they have been cronies since day one. So is Selkirk saying like we're finally ready to cut ties with the PPA? Not really. They're kind of specific in their criticism of UPA, UPAA, and doing a couple of things I noticed to leave PPA out of it. Like they almost give credit to Connor Ogden at one point for being like, yeah, this is weird. I don't know why we're doing this. This seems wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. And of course, I'm paraphrasing. We will put the link in description for the actual letter so you guys can comb through it and comment with what you thought of it.
We
We
won't.
won't?
I can't find them. The link is broken now.
Oh,
I have a PDF of it, so we could create our own link. But when I went
well,
to
I
go to
think it's
the
public domain at this point, so we can recreate it and still post it. And I saw it linked on someone else's website 2 days ago
okay,
or yesterday. So
I just didn't want to promise everyone that we would link it if we're not.
yeah, no, totally. We'll cut that if I can't link it, but
Yeah, it's okay.
I definitely want to hear what the community thinks if they read into between the lines what we do or not. It's obvious that we are headed towards efforts towards better testing. Anyone would agree with that. It's obvious that there have been some less than ideal habits and practices in the current testing, but it does seem a little two-faced coming from Selkirk with the history they've had with their own paddles. So as the bright side optimist, I can't help but hope that Selkirk is like, hey, stop giving us favoritism. We want everyone to have a fair playing field. Now, hopefully that's really what they feel like. But it's hard to really believe that given the history.
Yeah. So let's not forget that last St. George last year, Tyson McGuffin triple crowned and Travis Rettenmeyer challenged his paddle. The paddle failed. Tyson should have, according to the PPA rules, been stripped of his points, his title, and any prize money. That never happened. And Travis has talked about this multiple times on his podcast, on other podcasts. He's written about this. The PPA swept all of that under the rug because it was the Selkirk Red Rock Open. It was a home state, hometown event. Their number one player, Tyson, triple crowned. It was a very special moment. And I don't mean to take anything from Tyson. And I don't think this is Tyson's fault. This is not the player's fault. Degrading paddles is not the player's fault. But that was swept under the rug. And we have to call a spade a spade. So to me, there is an undercurrent in the letter of, whoa, we are no longer the favorite child.
Absolutely. And if you're wondering how it failed and also didn't get counted as a failure, they told Travis that he didn't challenge it at the right time, even though he challenged it 3 times during the game, and after the match. But that was the story they gave him.
Yeah, which I just makes me so sick. I can't even get into here. We have more, believe it or not, more drama from the PPA Utah with all of the craziness with the bounces and the court surface. We're going to get into that in about 30 seconds. First, we want to tell you guys Gamut is having a 40% 40% off Labor Day sale. They're also discounting the Airbender paddle, which is what I play, 20%, and the Obsidian paddle, 30%. Do not miss this. If you've been thinking, hey, that girl JILLYB and Kristen keep talking about how great the Airbender and Obsidian paddles are, this is your time to try it out. Do not miss this Labor Day sale.
Absolutely. It's such a great paddle. Everyone I hand it to is just like, wow, this paddle is so easy to hit my ball at my spots. I can really feel those resets and really just feel like a wizard on the court. And it's just a fun paddle to play.
So, Kristen, let's get into some drama from the PPA Utah. I am going to share my screen. For those of you not watching on YouTube, I'm sorry, but we will describe what I'm showing. So let me share my screen. All right, so this is a player by the name of Bryce Larson demonstrating dropping a ball. I'm just going to go ahead and hit play. And you can see on the left, it bounces fine. And then maybe a couple inches away from that same spot, the ball doesn't bounce at all. So
yeah, it's like half as much in height in the air as the proper bounce.
Okay, so why this is so interesting to me, Kristen, is Bryce posted this on the kitchen. And remember what Selkirk said in their letter, that Jason Aspis has a conflict of interest with the kitchen. Bryce posts this in the kitchen and then sends me a note and says, my post was removed from the kitchen. Quote, I got censored for calling out the PPA, end quote. I have not reached out to Jason or the kitchen to verify that the post was taken down or ask why it was taken down, but it would seem to me to really validate what Tom and Selkirk was saying in their letter, that there exists this conflict of interest and this ability to censor important information. You know what this is like? It's like that Harry Potter liquid luck. That's how I think of Ketone IQ. Can't do a pod without it. The taste of competency in a bottle. Looking for clarity? Ketone IQ can help you feel sharper, more focused, and ready to take on any task. Visit ketone.com/JILLYB for 30% off your first subscription order and unlock the benefits of drinkable ketones, allowing you to return to an ancient source of energy on demand.
According to PubMed, 87% of people see an improvement in brain network stability after drinking Ketone IQ.
Proven to support endurance and recovery, ketone supplements are trusted by the world's top performers, from Navy SEALs and Tour de France cyclists to pro athletes across major sports.
Ketone IQ ships free inside the US, and it's backed by a 60-day money-back guarantee. So ride the ketone wave risk-free at ketone.com/JILLYB for 30% off your first order.
And they just came out with a ketone plus caffeine product. Super exciting.
Super exciting. So ketone up.
Kristen, the other thing that is so interesting about this is the commentators mistakenly called the court surfaces pickle roll, and pickle roll had to come out with this huge statement that was like, look, those are not our courts. We don't produce a shitty product, excuse my language.
And not only that, but they also said, we have done extensive testing over the years, and we know that our adhesive courts do not meet the standards of high-level tournament play. That's not what we are designing here. We design a court surface that is meant for temporary, events and exhibitions where you need rapid-fire pickleball courts, but not for really advanced tournament play.
If that's the case, why did they play them on championship court at the APP New York?
Again, not pickle roll. This is a case of Kleenex, where people
Oh.
use the word pickle roll because they're so dominant in the space to refer to all adhesive courts. But there's more than one peel and stick in the world. And that is not actually the brand pickle roll. It's a different brand called something else. And I know that for a fact because I did talk to the APP at that New York event, and I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's like Universal or something with a U, I think. So there are other competitors in the space, and that's what they're using. But yeah, imagine being pickle roll for a second, where you're like, we're the leader in this clubhouse, and yet we know we're not good enough. And here are all these other, imitators going, yeah, we'll do it. How do you feel as pickle roll watching that happen?
So, Kristen, big week in terms of announcements about equipment standards and paddle testing. So, USAP has released a statement that they've got a new coefficient of restitution launching Q4 of 2024. That's basically right around the corner. And they call this pbCOR, which is just really fun to say. Say it with me, pbCOR.
I would say it with you, but I know our audio delay will make that impossible.
So Carl Schmidt, USA Pickleball's chief technical officer, says USA Pickleball's equipment certification has philosophically taken a crawl, walk, run approach. Our team wanted to ensure our process was timely, affordable, implementable, and had input from manufacturers so we could respond appropriately to equipment developments in the industry. We're excited to announce we have entered the run phase. So they have worked with the SFIA, that's the Sports and Fitness Industry Association, and Element Space and Defense, which formerly known as NTS. I mean, basically, it sounds like he's working with SpaceX to evolve to include paddle ball coefficient of restitution, that's pbCOR. And what pbCOR essentially is the ratio of the rebound speed to the incident speed of two colliding objects. I'm so happy that someone who had to take geometry 2 times is explaining this concept right now. Your girl, JILLYB. But basically what pbCOR is and the measuring of the incident speed of these two objects, it's measuring exit velocity. This is a fancy way for measuring how fast a ball is leaving a paddle, how hard a paddle is hitting. So USA Pickleball is saying, hey, starting Q4, we're able to quantify the power of a paddle, and a test for spin rate is underway and is planned to be released late 2024. So I have a million questions. Like, this is great news, right? And it reads like, rah, we're doing great things. What about degradation? That's a huge question I have, is what about degradation of the paddle? Okay, so it tested at X, right? But how are you actually going to quantify how quickly it's degrading? So I think I'll be really interested to see, Kristen, how USA Pickleball and the UPA measure the degradation and how quickly a paddle degrades. And they have to set the standard. USA Pickleball hasn't come out with anything about, hey, our standard is going to be X. Like PPL says, 42 pounds for the deflection force. And how are they figuring out that philosophical question? How fast should a pickleball paddle hit, right?
And I do think one of the things they mention at length in that Selkirk letter is, where's the data? Why don't we get our data back? Why don't we know this backroom testing you're doing? And PPL has always acted like, oh, we can't tell anyone the results of this test. That would be, unfair. But it's like, no, everyone should be able to see the results of every test.
So one industry paddle insider wrote me and said, everything looks like it's shaping up to be UPA and Joola versus everyone else. Ooh. And Kristen, walk us through some implications for if paddle manufacturers are now shelling out $70,000 or thereabouts.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
what
to
does that
think
mean for players?
these companies are trying to stay alive and trying to stay relevant and making choices on what makes them stay the most relevant. And they might have to make that sacrifice between sponsoring 1, 2, 3 players and spending that money on this new testing in order to have any of their players use the paddles in PPA events and MLP, of course, since they are the UPA. But some of these companies are probably going to just bite the bullet and do what they do, but it's definitely going to be a very present choice for paddle manufacturers starting looks like October of 2024. Has the USAP announcement included any changes in their fees? They haven't announced any fee
That's
structure.
a great question. It was interesting because in their press release, they went, it looks like, out of their way to say, we don't make a lot of money, not no money, but we don't make a lot of money or a significant amount of money in equipment testing. And I thought to myself, wow, that is such a weird thing to put in a very short press release. And now I'm thinking, oh, that makes sense. They're going out of their way to say, hey, we're doing this because we're the governing body, the nonprofit, and it's in the best interest of the sport, not because it's what the Selkirk letter quoted as a cash cow, right? Where they're accusing the UPA of, you're doing this because it's a cash cow. I had one paddle manufacturer write me and say, with fees as high as $70,000, all this means is I will pay my players less, I will sponsor less players, and now I will sponsor less local tournaments, events, and clubs. This is going to hurt pickleball at the local level. What do you think of that?
Absolutely, financially, that will happen, assuming that these numbers are somewhat in line. If it's 50 to 70, that definitely is going to have to be a choice people make. Yeah. But on the flip side, will the amateur game benefit the most from a future test that actually is able to test degradation? Because right now we know for a fact that there are paddles that break after one overhead, and the paddle is noticeably different than it was before that overhead, depending on the player. So if we arrive at a place where we can guarantee the sanctity of paddles and the durability of paddles, and we inspire paddle companies to want to make a paddle that is below that number, that margin, so that they know after degradation it will be close to that and it will be safe, does the greater pickleball community gain more from that hypothetical or from getting more small events sponsored? That's the argument, is like, where do you see the effects more palpably? So I don't know the answer, but I think that's the question.
No, I think that's well said. Kristen, do you want to tell us what bogeys in golf have to do with pickleball?
Wait, I need to find that in the notes. Tell me the answer. Oh, there we go. Okay, yes, now I remember. Really interesting stat came out on the PGA Tour that Jill found. I had nothing to do with it because my feed is nothing but pickleball now. I don't see golf ever. Although I did see Rory McIlroy accidentally break his driver. That one got to me. But one stat that has never been broken by anyone other than Tiger Woods in like 10 years is a lack of bogeys. And Jill, tell us how they measure that and what this stat really means.
Well, they literally measured your percentage of making bogeys. Like,
so of all the holes you play,
worse. Yeah,
how many of those are bogeys? And that number has
bogeys or worse. Bogeys or worse. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that number has never been below 10% by any player other than Tiger Woods since they started keeping the stat in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And two players this year broke it. So what you think of when you think of, okay, what does that stat mean? That means is the skill in making lots of birdies. Are you winning tournaments because you're making lots of good shots? Or are you winning tournaments because you're avoiding errors?
Exactly. So the PGA,
as Jill would say, cleaning up your own vomit.
Well, the PGA Tour average is 16.1%, and both Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler are at this like 9.2 to 9.5% number. And so what does this have to do with pickleball? It has everything to do with pickleball, you guys. Tiger Woods was at 9.8%. Nobody else has cracked 10% ever. Again, this is the number of basically mistakes that are being made. And what this means for your pickleball game is don't focus so much on building up your ceiling. Everyone's like, I want to go from 4-0 to 4-5. But what if the way you got there was being the best 4-0 you could possibly be, shoring up your fundamentals, diminishing your error rate? I'll never forget, I was playing with a paddle owner, and he said, oh my God, you just don't make errors. You just make balls. And one of my big philosophies in pickleball is like, dumb it down, get the ball over the net, reduce those stupid errors, and all of a sudden your ceiling will rise. And I think that this Wall Street Journal article and this Bogeys statistic was just an interesting metaphor for pickleball.
Totally. How would you suggest someone do that? Because it's easy to say, oh, just stop screwing up. But what kind of choices can people make to achieve that?
Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. I was playing with an up and coming pro and we were dinking. And I have this, we were warming up dinking. And I have this philosophy that when I warm up, every dink I hit in that first 15 minutes has to be over the net. That's simple. That's a mental channel you put yourself on that you select. That's not skill. That doesn't require infinite intelligence. It's a mental state of being that I'm going to get every single dink over the net for my first 10 to 15 minutes of my warm up. And I said to this pro I was playing with, this up and coming pro, I said, do you know how many dinks you've missed in the net in 10 minutes? And they were like, 10? And I was like, how many have I missed? And they're like, 0, 1, maybe? Like, that's a small mental shift just to shore up your fundamentals. Sorry, Kristen, what were you going to say?
I just wanted to be more specific that what you mean is perhaps higher and shallower versus trying to be perfect and grazing the top of the net.
Yeah,
right?
Stop trying to be perfect.
And in the middle of any point, right? Hitting it to the middle instead of a line. Hitting a ball that is your bread and butter instead of that new crazy shot that you think is cool and is going to look flashy, right?
Kristen, it's been a while since we've done some orkling, some prediction time. And I keep thinking about Bristol, Tennessee, the PPA, where we saw Judith Castillo and Eva Radzikowska fight to take home a bronze medal. And I loved it. I loved every second of it because I feel like I know how good a lot of these female players are and nobody else does. And so my big Oracle prediction is we are going to start finally seeing some shakeups, consistent shakeups on the PPA tour on the women's side. Finally, we've already seen it on the men's side, demonstrated by Colin and Ben starting to lose their grip or really having kind of lost their grip on consistent medaling. And, you know, the rise of Gabe Tardio and Hayden Patrick. And we're seeing it all on the men's side. And I know it's coming on the women's side. What do you think?
So does that mean we're going to start seeing more Gabe and Hayden style women? Are there more Annalise and Georges coming? Or are people figuring out what to do to catch up to these players quicker as the coaching better?
Yeah.
Where do you think this is coming from?
Players are just catching up. I think it's going to be a really long time till we see Annalie and Catherine lose. But I do think that that second and third medaling position is going to get very interesting quickly.
I would love to see more of that for sure.
I think it's going to happen. Someone I really like watching is Chao Yi Wang, Zoe, she goes by. I think she is going to be a superstar doubles player and is already there in singles.
So you in the past have been very outspoken about your feelings on women with a one-handed backhand. Do you think that that is just a sign of you need a strength quotient in order to effectively use that? Or are we going to see more of that? Because you have mentioned a few players who do favor a one-hander over a two-hander.
What Kristen means by that is I've been very vocal that if I'm ever playing against a girl with a one-hander, it's just so easy to target their left shoulder. It's really hard to get the paddle up, by the way, whether you're a guy or a girl. I target this on guys too. It's really hard to get the paddle up over your left shoulder and then have enough wrist strength to get the ball down. It's very difficult, guy or girl. And I think we're seeing some women come onto the scene who do that very effectively. And Zoe is one of those girls. And Judith Castillo too. They can put the second hand on the paddle if they want. So they're able to make these really fast game time decisions on if they need their left hand or not, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a benefit cost relationship there. So I have found myself dabbling in the like when to use each lately. And I definitely think you shouldn't be 100% one or the other. But most people.
I agree. I've been using one hand more than I've ever have before. And I'm actually getting like a little confused when to throw that second hand on. So I'm in that like, I'm not crawling and I'm not running. I'm like walking in terms of learning how to use the one hander more effectively.
But to simplify, in a general sense, two hands, you're going to have more power, more stability. One hand, you're going to have maybe more touch, more soft game, more reach.
One hand, you're going to have way more reach. You're going to be able to flick. You're going to be able to punch the ball, get through someone better. With two hands, you're going to be able to get the ball down more effectively. So if it's up by your shoulders, your left hand's going to help you get it down.
Yes. And if you listen to our podcasts, plural, you know how important it is to get that ball down versus power.
100%.
But really cool. Did you want to do a biohack of the week?
3, 2, 1, 0.
I do have one health biohack of the week, Kristen, and that is my ProBand. You guys haven't heard me talk a ton about my ProBand lately, and that makes me sad. That breaks my heart. The ProBand technology, there's one for your ankle that I have been living by since twisting my ankle. There's one for your knee. There's one for your arm called the Bandit that I use religiously in all of my tournament play and my practice. And what I love about it is you've got these magnetic pads that work with your body's internal pumping mechanism to bring blood flow to really hard to reach areas. So like on your ankle, if you have plantar fasciitis, a twisted ankle, that is so important. If you have tennis elbow or pickleball elbow, I can't say enough good things about my ProBand. And you can go to proband.com and use code JILLYB for 10% off.
And just to be clear, they have two versions. One is the mag, and one is the not magnet that has the foam pads, but they both are mechanically working with your pumping mechanism designed by doctors and are tried and true. I think, what are they, 20 years deep? How long have they been around?
Exactly. Over 20 years, super tried and true. People use it religiously in tennis, and now they're segueing into pickleball.
And the squeezy ball, right, to actually activate the muscles that can continue to heal that power. That could be the biggest long-term gain as well. So make sure you're grabbing that exercise ball as well.
100%. Well, Kristen, I know it's been too much of me talking on this pod because you have had some internet issues. So apologies to absolutely everyone who had to listen more to me than K-Dubs. We promise next podcast she'll be back in her full glory.
Yes, praise the internet gods. I will be in a new megabytes zone for the next one, and together, most likely.
Is it a rule of the universe where if you're doing anything at your parents' house, the internet is not ideal? All right, you guys, thanks for joining us. Don't forget, pickleball is joy.
Don't let anyone tell you differently. We out.
This pickleball life.